Hello there, everybody. This is our makeup video for our class session today on November 15th, 2018. We just have a few things to get over. Shouldn't take all that long. Certainly not 75 minutes. A lot of the stuff we were going to do today was like get new partners, and we'll reveal the topic. We'll talk a little bit about the kind of debate we'll do with it, and yeah, that's it. Okay, so let me get this live link to you all. It does have to stream just a little bit before it gives me a unique link. So let me get that for you here shortly. Or will it show where my stuff is? Come on. It always slightly changes every time I do this. Ah, here it is. Slightly changes every time. Oh, there we go. Okay, here is our video link. Put this in there and email it out to you, and then if you're watching it live, you'll see this in just a few minutes. Okay, now let's get down to business. So our our agenda today is to kind of go over the topic, go over the form of debate, and yeah, that's about it. Um, Again, it shouldn't really take all that long. So now that we've finished a policy debate and we've done a matter of fact debate, the last form of debate is what we call a value debate. And we'll talk about the case structure for that in here in a moment. But the resolution that we're all going to tackle because of the tournament that is coming up on Saturday, December 1st. This is maybe actually the first order of business here that we'll try to attend to, is the Interclassroom Debate Tournament. Now, the deal here is that there's a special deal with attending this tournament. Um, if you attend all 4 rounds, they start at 8 a.m. Start at 8 a.m. till let's say about 2 p.m. There's also going to be free lunch in there, and that 2 p.m. time also kind of assumes um, that you'll be staying for the award ceremony afterwards, because this is a tournament where you have actual stakes, and you can win stuff. So if you attend all 4 rounds, and you just need to attend the rounds, you don't need to attend the lunch and the award ceremony, but it's a free lunch, and you probably want to see how you did. Um, in any case, if you attend all 4 rounds, you get a minimum B plus grade. If you win rounds, let me put a new line here. If you win rounds and you distinguish yourself, or you distinguish yourself as a speaker, because you'll be rated on speaker points as well as the just win loss record, you will get a higher grade than a B plus. For a lot of you who already have like a B or B plus average, this is an opportunity for you to get that A. For those of you with less than that, this is an opportunity for you to get your grade in this class higher. I encourage everyone in here to consider this opportunity. I know I've announced this before, but now it's the time. Okay, so we need to get a special commitment set up. So I'll be asking for final commitment, and when I say commitment, I mean it. Final commitment on Tuesday. Okay, that's this coming Tuesday. Next time we meet on campus, I need you to uh, give me that final commitment there. Speaking of commitment here, I just heard a little noise go off. It seems like someone's in the chat room. Let's see what question that person asked. Yes. So, yes. What the answer to that question is yes. And the question was, um, does this count as our final grade? And that is correct. Yeah, this is your final debate, and it will take the place of the final debate. So if you do this activity, you don't need to do the final debate. Let's switch back now to the Word document here, and I'll put that up. Um, this stands in for your final debate. Okay. If you do not take this advantage of this opportunity, you will have to do a final debate. if we have a lot of people that won't take this opportunity, that means that basically we're going to be meeting in finals week and the weeks prior to that to do these debates. Okay, so you can. I would really rather we just kind of finish the class, or mostly finish the class on December 1st by having as many people attend this as possible. I am more than happy to write you an excuse for any school or work activity that this will be, shall we say, taking the place of that particular Saturday. We've got about 3 weeks, so hopefully we can make arrangements for that. Um, but I understand if you just can't make it. Um, but I can help you. I feel like we can get it together if you want to do this. And again, the special deal is that you get a minimum B plus, but all of you should stand a pretty good chance of getting higher than that as you distinguish yourself and win some rounds. I would be kind of shocked if none of you had distinguished yourself among 4 rounds of debate. Logic kind of dictates statistically that at least one of those 4 debates you'll do pretty well, especially when compared to people from the other section. Not because I think the other section's weak or anything, just because, I mean, at some point you're just going to do better than somebody else when you do uh, this activity so many times in a row. Okay, so anyway, the point is, this is the special deal, so I encourage you all to take advantage of it. So now transitioning to the actual lecture part of the day. Um, the topic for this tournament is the following resolution, and this is the one that we'll all work on. Okay, everybody does it regardless if you're going or not, and we'll also prepare for both sides because the people who are going to the tournament, they need as many arguments as they can have. So that'll be part of your unit. If we all do one card on each side of the resolution, which we'll talk about later, we'll have a work session on Tuesday. That was just part of the things that we were going to tackle today, but we're not going to get to doing that. Um, but in any case, our resolution yeah. So everyone does both sides of this resolution. If you're debating in class, you'll know what side you are before you debate, of course. But just to speed things up, we're going to prepare both sides. Then we're going to come up with the calendar for the in-class debates, and I'm just going to put either of you on either side. I'm not going to show any preference in terms of sides. We just got to get it done because we're that kind of close. I mean, next week is Thanksgiving, so we just gotta do it. Okay, so the resolution is the U.S. federal government. So I'm going to abbreviate that with the USFG should abolish the use of the death penalty. Okay. So I hope that's a little bit better than the other topics that we've had before. So this is the topic that all the classrooms are going to be doing. Again, we'll be preparing for both sides. So you'll have to agree with it, and you'll have to disagree with it. Um, Now, here's the fact number one about this. If you were to look at this should be what we call a policy resolution because it talks about what should happen, and that's why I'm highlighting the word "should" here. However, this is the topic that my boss and I settled on as a result of a lot of our discussion, and so the agreement is that we're going to tackle it as if it were a value debate. And so, what a value debate is, again, is that a value debate is a discussion about um, abstract concepts that are either promoted or eroded by uh, the topic statement. Okay, so the basics of it is that you would look at this statement here and you'll say there is some kind of abstract, desirable concept like justice or the right to life or vengeance that is being either helped or eroded by agreeing or disagreeing with this topic. Okay, so the cases are structured a lot like the cases that we had before. And again, this is relevant to everything. The event or the debate type is crossfire. Okay, so that's the exact same kind of debate that you did the first time, at least in format. Your case is going to be structured very similarly. So let's go ahead and talk about that. If you remember the fact-based debate, um, you kind of just had at the in the intro. Um, the intro had like a preview, interesting fact, and a decision statement, right? A statement that said something like, if you can agree that, yada yada yada, then we win this debate. Okay, now this is going to be very similar with a value debate. So in a value debate case, here's how it's structured. Um, you have your intro, okay, and that is just kind of the bog standard thing that you've always done in a class. Okay, interesting, startling fact, build interest, preview of main points, um, and definition of key terms. Okay, you'll notice that it's technically missing the decision statement. You're right, because and we can go back and forth as to whether or not this is still introductory material or not. But there's a special thing we call in a value debate case called a case premise. Okay, so we're right after you're kind of given this preview and introducing the topic, you go into the premise or the background or the understanding that you are building about your case. And in this part, you will identify it. You will do a couple things. Let's go ahead and get that up here. Um, yeah, you will introduce a value, all right? And that means you identify the value and you define it. Okay, now you can define it yourself, but I strongly recommend um, the dictionary. Use of a dictionary is preferable, okay? Now, what is a value? Well, briefly, a value is an intangible concept that is universally desirable. Okay, so something like justice, something like freedom, something like living or life. These are all things that we all desire, and they're all intangible. In that you can't really measure justice, you can't really measure um, freedom, can't really even measure what is life, right? In terms of um, people still debate whether or not algae is that a living creature or not. I mean, most people might say yes, but there's a certain amount of things about it that people would say, well, maybe it's not quite as alive as we think. Or maybe a better example would be viruses, right? Um, Viruses have a lot of qualities that make something alive. They also don't. Right? So there is no like definitive objective way to determine whether or not something's just, whether or not a society is free, or whether or not a given item is even alive. Okay, um, so these are all abstract concepts that are not measurable in an objective sense. However, they are things that are experienced. Okay, so you can't touch justice, you can't touch freedom, you can't put a measuring tape on it and figure out how much you have. But do you know if you've been treated fairly? Yeah. Do you know if you are able to do what you desire to do? Yeah. Um, do you know that you are conscious and able to affect your environment? Yeah. So these are all things that you can't measure in an objective sense, like 2 plus 2 equals 4. But these are all things that you can experience, and you know you experience them somehow. And so you identify, in your case, you identify this value and you define what it is. And based on that definition, you present right after that a criterion. Okay? The criterion is what you is a explanation of how that value is experienced in real life. Okay, so for example, if our value was, say, justice, we would say that we can tell we experience justice when someone who commits a crime receives a proportionally serious punishment. Right? So anytime that someone commits a crime, so for example, if a vandal breaks a car window, they should receive a proportionally serious punishment. So maybe the judge and the police will just go over to his house and break their window, right? That would be just because somebody who committed a crime experienced a punishment that was proportional. Okay. Um, Now, that specific example might have some issues with a few of you, but the idea is that you are setting up this philosophy. Okay, so you and your partner are talking about this value, what it means, and how you can observe in a real world scenario that that value is at work. Okay, does that make sense? So your contentions, which is just a fancy word for arguments, which again means claim, data, warrant, right? So you're explaining this stuff. You're not really making arguments here. You're just kind of declaring what this is according to you and your partner. And then you have your your contentions, which are about are really just examples about how in the real world your value is or is not experienced through the lens of the topic. So your contentions will be all about the death penalty, okay? But they're going to be, you know, my idea of justice again is the idea that proportional. If you do a crime, you receive a proportional punishment, and let's say this would be a negative argument. Um, so let's say that if somebody kills another person, it is a reasonable and proportional punishment for the killer's life to be ended also, right? It's using the exact same amount of force um, and consequence of the crime that they committed. Therefore, it's proportional, right? That would be an argument about how the death penalty is a proportional, or is a proportional punishment to the crime that was committed, which promotes the value, right? You see kind of how I highlighted that as we go back up. So again, your contentions are claims that you support with data and a warrant about how, in the real world, your criterion is either satisfied or not satisfied by the topic, which in this case is the use of the death. So if you agree with this topic, your value would be something that you feel is promoted if we abolish the death penalty. If you are the negative, your case is going to be about something you feel um, is promoted by the use of the death penalty. Okay, or maybe something that we would lose as a result of abolishing the death penalty. Right, so it's still just as much research as the original Crossfire case. Right, so each of your 2 to 3 arguments. So I'm going to write this down here. Just 2 or 3 arguments. 2 or 3 arguments. So it's, and each one has um, one piece of data. Okay, so it's basically just 1 or 2 quoted sources for your case. So it's not really that much research work, but you do have to think carefully about whether or not the examples, the contentions are talking about, really do promote the value that you feel is represented by your side of this statement. So yeah, and that's really it, folks. The value debate case is just that. You have an intro, that's the bog standard intro. You declare a value that you can define yourself, though I would prefer dictionary. Um, Again, a value is that intangible thing that is a universally desirable concept. Um, you present a criterion. Again, this is something that you explain how you can know you've experienced this abstract concept that can't really be touched. And then you have your contentions, which are again are claims that are basically examples about how that value or that criterion is being satisfied or not satisfied by your side of the resolution. That's really it. The speeches will last 4 minutes. Again, it's just like the crossfire bait, um, and that is how long your case just needs to be. It's not necessarily um, I don't want to make it sound like it's easy. It requires a lot of abstract thinking, which for some people is very difficult, and we'll have some help with that when we actually have an in-person class session. But otherwise, it's not a lot of research. We can get this done definitely in the 2 weeks or so that we have left, and be ready to debate in a very short time period. Especially when we meet on Tuesday, and we can each one of us will create an argument, and as a result, the class will have plenty of arguments to choose from. It'll just be a simple matter then of spending the rest of that class period stitching together a case, and we'll be ready to debate, within 1 or 2 class sessions, no problem. All right, so that is the explanation of the value debate. Again, your homework for tonight actually is to decide if you can make a final commitment to this tournament on Saturday, December 1st. I encourage everyone to be there. Um, there is not a single person that would not be helped, either educationally nor grade wise. This tournament represents a great opportunity for everyone. Even if you're doing pretty well, I mean, you might as well just lock it in, right? And if you're not doing as well as you want, I mean, this is going to push you over the top for the performance that you are desiring. So, all right, that's it for today. Thank you so much, and stay safe out there. Don't slip and fall down. I've learned recently that foot pain is terrible, so have a great day. See if there are any questions. There are no more questions other than what I already answered. Okay, well, have a good one. I'll catch you on Tuesday.